So good afternoon, Women Deliver. Hasn't this been a lovely conference? Thank you for joining me here on the Power Stage. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about women in sports, and particularly around the topic of change and changing the mindset about how we view women in sport. So before I get into my talk, I'd like to ask the audience a question. How many of you have ever attended a conference similar to this, where you've learned so much about women or about a particular topic, and you're committed to go home and work on that topic, but then before you know it, your to-do list gets longer and longer and longer, and everything that you learned and everything that you said you were going to do, you didn't do? How many of you have been in that situation? Okay. So that was me. I had been in that situation countless times. But then there was a change. In 2015, I attended the Girl Power in Play Symposium, and it was held in Ottawa, Canada, and it was held against the backdrop of the 2015 Women's World Cup. And at that symposium, we discussed pressing issues facing girls and their right to play in sport. We also discussed topics of health and education. And as a freelance journalist, I gathered with decision makers, with high-level government officials, and influencers, and we all gathered together and we pledged. We pledged that we would do what we could do to make more opportunities for girls and women in sport. And there was a call to action, and there was a call to action for members of the media. And one of those calls to action was to increase media attention for female coverage in sport. At that time, and still, only about 7% of media coverage is focused on women and girls in sport. Also, the call to action included addressing stigma and beliefs that prevent girls and women from participating in sport. So since that time, I have written over 94 stories dedicated to women in sport. Last year, I interviewed Marta, the legendary Brazilian football player, who's now going to be in the 2019 World Cup. And she and I talked about the issues facing women in sport in her country, and also the issues facing the National Women's Soccer League, as she's currently a participant, a player with the Orlando Pride. Also this year, I covered the Equal Playing Field Initiative, which is a grassroots organization that is committed to eliminating gender stereotypes around sport. And what this organization is doing is they are breaking gender barriers by breaking world records. So they've already broken 2 world records. A soccer match played on Mount Kilimanjaro, which is now holds the world record for the highest level altitude soccer match. And they also, which this picture shows, they have held the world record for the lowest altitude soccer match, which was played in Jordan. And this summer, if any of you happen to be in France, in the Lyon area, they are attempting their 3rd world record for the longest played soccer match, which will be 24 hours for 5 straight days. And also, in 2018, I co-authored the Most Powerful Women in International Sports list, which was the first time that women in sport outside of the United States had been given their own list. And I interviewed FIFA General Secretary, Ms. Fatma Samora, who is the first woman to hold that position. Ms. Samora is working to dispel gender stereotypes in sports after a 21-year humanitarian career. So I invite you all, those of you who raised your hand earlier during my presentation and admitted, like me, that there have been times where you haven't changed and you haven't followed through on a task. I invite you to change, follow through. The doors in the world will be open to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. So I have a question for you. This is what happens when you don't script your moderator. So there is a certain sport, I won't mention it, but maybe it's played with clubs by women, in which there's been a lot of emphasis put on what they're wearing so that the TV cameras will broadcast the sport. Have you done anything about this kind of issue and protesting and making sure that the way women are shot, the angles they're shot at, and what they're told to wear in order to increase the coverage on TV is dealt with?
Well, that's an interesting question. Men are never scrutinized for what they wear. They can wear a polo shirt, khakis, jersey, shorts, it doesn't matter. But unfortunately, when women are participating in sport, they're continued to be judged by their looks and what they're wearing, and that has to stop. So that is a topic that, yes, I continue to look at and cover.
Okay, thank you very much. And now the question that everyone gets asked, how will you use your power going forward?
You know, I will continue to use my power to amplify women and girls in sport. I'd like us to live in a world where we open the newspaper. I still open a regular newspaper or a tablet, and we see stories written about women that are the same stories that we see about men. So I'll use my voice, my fingers to continue to write and share stories about strong, powerful women in sports.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Let's have
you.
a round of applause for Alana Glass.